Now, with all the stories making the weekend headlines this Sunday night, it's the ITV News.
The Queen is self-isolating after testing positive for COVID. A palace statement says she's receiving medical attention but expects to continue with light duties this week. Also tonight, as the world watches and waits for a Russian invasion of Ukraine, France tries more diplomacy and...
It's curling gold! Eve Muirhead has finally done it!
On the last day of the Winter Olympics, Team GB finally finds gold in the curling.
This is ITV News with Geraint, Vincent.
Good evening. The Queen will be going about her work as much as is possible tomorrow, but she will do so with COVID-19. She tested positive for the virus this morning. A statement from Buckingham Palace said she has mild, cold-like symptoms and that she'll continue to receive medical attention. The Queen is understood to be fully vaccinated and she expects to carry on with light duties at Windsor. This report from Chloe Keedy.
I'm here.
This was the Queen on Wednesday, smiling and laughing as she hosted guests at Windsor Castle.
How are you?
Well, as you can see, I can't move.
She alluded for the first time to having some mobility issues, but looked otherwise to be in good spirits. Tonight, though, she is self-isolating at her home in Windsor after testing positive for COVID-19. Buckingham Palace has described her symptoms as mild and said she'll carry on with light duties here over the coming week. This comes 10 days after Prince Charles tested positive for the virus. He and Camilla had spent the previous evening at a reception for the British Asian Trust. It's thought he last saw his mother, the Queen, the day before that, so 2 days before he tested positive.
Nice to see you again. How are you? Good to see you.
The Duchess of Cornwall carried on with her public engagements until testing positive herself a few days later. It's understood that the Queen is triple jabbed, and she will, of course, be being well looked after.
With the combination of vaccination and boosting, and almost certainly, although obviously I don't know for certain, those oral antiviral treatments, which will be given very early. All of those three things mean that, yes, she is 95, but actually the odds are stacked very heavily in her favour.
I think I might just put a knife in.
Only 2 weeks ago, the Queen was celebrating her historic accession day. This reception at Sandringham House, the first of many events this year to mark her Platinum Jubilee.
Well, the Queen is a very positive person. And, you know, if she's ill, she does what she's told to do by her doctors in order to get better again. And she has lots to look forward to with the Platinum Jubilee coming up. And she will obviously want to take part in that as much as she can.
But the Queen also has plenty of day-to-day duties, and the Palace is keen to stress tonight that she plans to carry on with those. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
We're live now to our royal editor, Chris Shipp. Chris, this test result comes at the end of a difficult week for the Queen.
Yeah, it has been a very difficult week. If you think of just Monday and Tuesday last week, what happened with the Prince Andrew case and then the sort of Prince Charles police investigation into one of his charities. So, yes, a difficult week. But, you know, this statement, when it came out this morning, took us all by surprise because actually they've been very careful with the Queen. Ever since COVID started, she's had a sort of small coterie of staff looking after her. They sort of go on rotation, so like her private secretary or assistant private secretary, they take it in turns to be with the Queen. So they've always been very careful, clearly because of her age of 95. But then if she's got, we've just been hearing, the double vaccine plus the booster, I mean, she is in the best situation she can possibly be. I think there's a debate as well about why they have told us, because the Queen is entitled to an element of medical privacy, but then again, she is the head of state. I think when the head of state gets, you know, something as serious as COVID or potentially as serious as COVID, then the decision was made in Buckingham Palace to let us know that she had tested positive. But as we know, she's going to continue where she can with her light duties, and as much as she can, the Queen will continue as normal whilst dealing with the COVID contraction that she has.
OK, Chris, many thanks. On to other news, and weather warnings remain in place for much of the country as Storm Franklin, the third storm in a week, sweeps through. Torrential rain triggered more than 150 flood warnings, including here in West Yorkshire, where construction work on flood defences suffered a setback. Elsewhere in South Yorkshire, the River Don has burst its banks tonight. Police are urging people to stay away. A yellow wind warning has been issued by the Met Office for much of the country until 1 p.m. tomorrow. In Northern Ireland, fast-moving waters brought flooding to parts of County Tyrone. Some flights and ferries have been cancelled ahead of an amber wind warning, which comes into force at midnight until 7 a.m. tomorrow. And away from the weather, ministers are expected to set out changes to COVID laws in England tomorrow. The requirement to self-isolate for people testing positive is expected to be dropped. It's part of the government's plans for what it describes as living with COVID. Russia could be planning the biggest war in Europe since 1945. That dramatic warning came from the Prime Minister as Russia extended military exercises on the Ukrainian border. And today, a former president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, told ITV News he's worried an invasion could come within days. Our global security editor, Rohit Kashru, sent this report from Ukraine.
An armoured column near the border with Ukraine. These clips were posted on social media this weekend, and they show something new. The letter Z daubed in white paint on the vehicles. Analysts say the new markings are to identify them in preparation for war. With all eyes on Ukraine, 30,000 Russian troops have been carrying out military drills in Belarus. They were due to leave today, but Moscow now says they're staying, raising concerns about Russia's motives.
You're seeing these provocations now in Donbass. You're starting to see this, these explosions and so on that we've been warning about for a long time. And I'm afraid to say that the plan that we're seeing is for something that could be really the biggest war in Europe since 1945, just in terms of sheer scale.
Tensions are rising in the east of the country. Ukrainian forces say they've been told not to open fire on separatists backed by Russia, whatever comes their way. But Russia is accused of trying to stage a fake crisis to justify an invasion. The Kremlin denies that. Today, Ukrainians remembered the killing of dozens of protesters gunned down by security forces 8 years ago this week. The former president laid flowers and comforted mourners ahead of what he believes could be a difficult period. What is your message to Putin?
For Putin, this is the only chance to keep the peace, is to withdraw the troops, Russian troops, from our border.
Are you worried about the next few days?
Definitely yes, because I trust to information which was presented by our partners from US, from Great Britain, from European Union.
Civilians in Ukraine are signing up for military training for an invasion which has yet to materialize. But de-escalation currently seems to be a more distant prospect. Rohit Kashru, ITV News, Kyiv.
Well, a little earlier, our correspondent Dan Rivers sent us this update from Kharkiv, a city close to the Russian border in northeastern Ukraine.
There is a remarkable air of normality here in Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, which is just 20 miles from the Russian border, where this massive military build-up is continuing. Social media is full of images of tanks and missile launchers being positioned right near the border. It's estimated by analysts that 75% of Russia's conventional army is now surrounding Ukraine, either along the border of Russia or in neighbouring Belarus. The diplomacy isn't completely dead, though. There was a call today between the President of France and President Putin, and there are also calls scheduled between the US, France and Germany. But there's no sign of any significant breakthrough or move in Russia's position. And so now Ukraine waits, rather nervously it must be said, to see what will happen. I think this week will be crucial in seeing what President Putin has in mind.
Dan Rivers reporting from Ukraine. On to sport, and England's women's footballers have drawn their second game in the International Arnold Clark Cup. It finished 0-0 against Spain at Norwich City's Carrow Road. England's substitute Lauren Hemp came closest to scoring in front of her home fans. And finally tonight, the Queen may have COVID, but she's been keeping an eye on the Winter Olympics. She sent her congratulations to Team GB's women's curlers, who won gold this morning. They saved the best till last, beating Japan on the final day in Beijing. Here's Lewis Warner.
A golden moment this team have dreamt of for years. Eve Muirhead leading the women curlers to victory in Beijing. Her defining moment came amid the final stone of the seventh end. This superbly executed raised takeout, giving the team the lead and effectively the victory.
Move it out of the house. It's 4 for Great Britain. That's it. The handshakes come. It's the gold medal.
It's a dream come true for all of us from a young age. All of us dreamt of getting on that top of that podium and replicating what Rona Martin did back in 2002. And for it to happen today is honestly a day that none of us will ever forget.
This, her first gold in a remarkable sporting journey after multiple setbacks. For her teammates, they become champions at their first attempt, including Vicky Wright here on the left, an NHS nurse who worked on a COVID ward. From a team basking in the glory of Beijing, back in Windsor, the Queen, in a message, said they were outstanding. Gold for the women and silver for the men, with the celebrations set to continue when they return home. Lewis Warner, ITV News.
Well done to them. That is all from us this evening. Good night.